What is today's date? Today's date is March 7th, 2024. Thank you for stopping in here on the stream. If you are watching on Rumble, if you are watching on YouTube, if you are watching on Twitch, if you are watching on X, formerly known as Twitter, I'd appreciate a follow. I'd appreciate a like. And if you at any point during this conversation have something you want to call me out on, now is definitely the time to do that. So I've taken over the screen test podcast and decided I'm going to jump on here and do just a discussion of how Dune Part 2 was. I guess it is officially called Dune Part 2. The good news is it does sound like a Dune Part 3 is being worked on. If you have not seen Dune 2, then this discussion is going to be a little bit awkward for you because we're going to talk a little bit about the movie. We're going to talk a little bit about potential sequels and where we go from here. So, yep, I went and saw Dune 2 yesterday, Dune Part 2, Dune the second part. And it was outstanding. It was great. What is the worst movie Denis has made at this point? Why don't we go look at that, actually? Because this ain't it. This isn't the worst. This is probably one of the best. This is probably one of the better sequels to a movie we've had in, gosh, I don't even know, like forever. It used to be, because what is it, Dark Knight, probably? Is that the best? Is that the last great sequel that we've had? Was Dark Knight? Could be. So let's look at this real quick. Oh, did I just get rid of it? Show me all of the movies he has directed. What did I just click? Let's pull this up here. Let's take a look. Oh my gosh, they have a rankings section here. So if I understand correctly, when they're doing rankings on IMDb, they're specifically just looking at the total score here. A 9 is really high. That is obviously incredibly high. I wonder if that will start to drop down in some time. And we'll see that number go down. Prisoners is one of those movies that I absolutely loved. But it's been a while since I've seen it. I probably watched it back in 2013 or 2014. At this point, I feel is where Denis kind of started to make his name a little bit. And obviously, you'll see things kind of ramp up after this. I'm already seeing a huge issue here, though. I already have a massive issue with this list. So great. All this is great. Why is this not higher? In my opinion, Arrival is number 1 or number 2. Like it should be way up there. Also kind of crazy that Blade Runner only grossed 92 million, but Arrival grossed 100 million. That's kind of crazy to me because I just feel like those are two different types of movies. I feel like this would have way more than that one. Arrival's just too dang good. Like, it's too good of a movie to be his 6th best movie. I like Sicario a lot. I have really only one issue with that movie, and that is kind of with Emily Blunt's character. But okay, great movie. Okay, I was going to say if I were to list one movie that I've seen of his that I did not care for, it was Enemy. That was it. And I can't believe that came out in 2013. So that came out the same year that Prisoners came out. But just an incredible director. And I think at this point here, when you're talking about Dune 2, I think this dude's gonna have unlimited money thrown at him. He's gonna have just unlimited amounts of money thrown at him. And he should. He's earned every bit of it. Just an outstanding director through and through. So Dune 2, in my opinion, at this point was more. So I did the right thing here. I went and watched the original Dune. This was my fourth time seeing Dune at this point, but I watched it this week, leading up to actually going and seeing the second one. I wanted it to be kind of fresh. It had been a while since I had seen the movie, and I wanted to see it one more time, make sure that when I went to go see the second one, all that stuff was going to be fresh in my mind. I'm really glad that I did that for a couple of reasons, actually. I've always loved Dune, but Dune always felt like an incomplete film to me because there was clearly more to that story. There was more to that movie. There were a lot of characters that were just kind of left hanging that you barely got to see. And then you kind of get a little bit of them there at the end as you kind of lead into the whole storyline there with the Fremen. So I was always just excited to see where the next film was going to go. So watching the first one leading into the second one helped in a lot of ways. It made the comparison a little bit more obvious to me. Not only just obviously getting the freshness of the story leading into the second one, but even just the comparison of kind of the grandioseness shifting from the first one to the second one. It's wild to me. The first one felt big. It felt like a really big movie. But the second one had so many incredible shots of just vast amounts of people, vast amounts of landscape. It gave the whole idea of this planet of Arrakis way more depth, where in the first one, it really does just feel like one kind of location with some area around it. Here, you get the idea of there being a full planet. Not only that, but you get a much bigger scale of how big kind of the universe feels on top of it. The action felt better in this movie. The villains felt great in this movie. I thought we had a great performance by Austin Butler in here. I wish we almost had more of that. I feel like that could have had a little bit more. You get enough of him kind of in the previews leading up to the movie that you're kind of hoping to see him more. Anya Taylor-Joy, that was great. I almost forgot she was cast in this film, and that was probably a good thing because she's basically not in this movie. I think she says one line in the entire movie. But outside of that, the cast is great from top to bottom. And you get to the end of that film and all you want is more of it. That's what you want. You just want to see more of it. I'm going to have a hard time looking at this movie and trying to figure out who really killed it. Like, who stuck out as far and above the best performer in this movie? Is it Timothée Chalamet, who was incredible in this movie? And I'm somebody that's a little light on Timothée Chalamet. I think he's somewhat, he borders on being a little bit wooden sometimes in some of his performances, where he is not wooden whatsoever in this performance. He's outstanding. Or is it Rebecca Ferguson, who again continues the story of Lady Jessica as Paul Atreides' mom? I think both absolutely kill it in this movie and are great from top to bottom. Zendaya is good in this movie. She obviously has way more to do in this than she does in the first one. And overall, they've done a good job of kind of making her character very likable and plays really well as a side by side there with Timothée Chalamet. All in all, it's really hard to look at this movie and think, where were the negatives here? Where were the downfalls? There might have been a little bit of some pacing stuff in the middle of it, where it felt maybe slightly rushed for a 2-hour, 45-minute long movie. That doesn't, it shouldn't feel like certain parts of it are kind of rushed. And the movie does. It just gives you no preamble. It's pretty much throwing you straight into it. Um, but man, I wish I I would like to still go see this in IMAX. I did not see this in IMAX. I did see this in kind of a regular theater, which um, still gives you again plenty to enjoy about the movie, and I didn't feel like I necessarily missed out on a whole lot. But when you're seeing a movie that is so beautifully shot, the way that Dune was shot, you kind of wonder what this looks like in an IMAX theater. Um, Not only that, but the score is incredible. Really, it sticks out a lot more than it did even in the first one. Um, so yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard to look at this movie and say, well, here's the list of things I would change or the list of things that I would do better. They take an incredibly complicated book, a really detailed sci-fi novel that obviously has a huge cult following, but it's not necessarily um, a book that just about everybody's reading or cares about, and they made it into really a blockbuster style movie. And it's complicated. Like there's a lot of different politics. There's a lot of different religious things taking place. There's a lot of different factions. There's just a lot of things going on that you kind of have to keep tabs on, and yet it just works beautifully in this movie. I don't know how he did it. Um, so yeah, first reaction, I will want to go see it again for sure. I probably watched the original Dune again, maybe 3 or 4 times. So I watched that plenty. So I'm excited to go check this out again. Maybe I can catch it in IMAX and actually get that full experience. Um, but yeah, really great. I cannot get over the fact though that Arrival is as low on the ratings as it is. I could go on and on and on about why Arrival is one of the best movies I've ever seen, and I will stick by that forever. Um, so it bums me out that the rest of the world does not quite see it that way. So yeah, the reactions of just about everybody that's seen this movie a lot. There's a lot of talk about this being the greatest sequel ever made. Um, you know, fine. I think that a little bit as recency bias. I think it's really hard to kind of. It's the tough thing about kind of rating movies is you're apples and oranging a lot of these things. So um, it'd be hard for me to say, but this is absolutely one of the best. I just don't know if I would quite label it as the greatest sequel ever made. Yeah, if you have not seen Dune, I don't know what you'd be waiting for. You should go check it out as soon as you can. I always like checking the box office numbers, and I mentioned on yesterday's stream that I had read an article saying that Dune Part 2 would need to make about $500 million to break even. Now, for those that kind of don't know necessarily how kind of like the whole box office thing works, there's obviously a budget for the film. And then what ends up happening is they always just double it for marketing. And that's kind of how they get to what a total budget would be for that. I don't know if that's I wish somebody would really explain if that is true. Like I don't know why an $80 million movie would double its budget for marketing, but a $300 million movie would also double its budget for marketing. I feel like those things, if they were both action films and both kind of had similar pushes, I don't know how that works. So I've always kind of put that into question, but supposedly, um, they're saying about 300, or I'm sorry, 500 million is what it would need. So if we look here, we can see that Dune Part 2 currently has a gross of 197 million. So it looks like it's going to be well on its way. You'll obviously get some big drops here over the next coming weeks. But as we've looked at here recently, it's not really competing with a whole lot either. We've got what do we have coming out this weekend? We have a kids movie coming out this weekend. What do we have? What do we have? What do we have? Why do I not remember? Kung Fu Panda 4. So Kung Fu Panda 4 could be number one in the box office this weekend. It's a kids movie. We've been kind of light on animated films here as of recent. I think Migration was kind of the last big one there. So, I could see that kind of cutting into it a little bit, but these numbers will drop. That's just kind of how this whole process works. So either way, we're at 197. I'm gonna guess it gets to that 500 million here, probably a little bit into April. So it's still got a ways to go, but that's not kind of the interesting part to me. What I want you to see here, especially, is the domestic side. 97 million. It's been out for 4 or 5 days. Okay. Well, what did Dune do? That's right. This is where you would compare it. It only did $108 million domestic and 433 worldwide. So obviously a much bigger hit internationally than it would domestic. So right now, these numbers would trend to make me believe that we're going to go well beyond that $500 million mark at that point. So kind of wild to me that it only did $108 million, and we are pretty darn close to already matching that here in Dune Part 2. We're very close. Opening was basically doubled from what it was from the original as well. So, I feel like we're getting dangerously close there to Denis Villeneuve basically getting a blank check on whatever film he decides to do after Dune. It does sound like he plans on doing a third one, and then that might be about where it ends before he kind of moves on to his next project. And at this point, I'm excited to see where he goes. He's just a very smart and innovative director, and he's probably one of the best doing it right now. Not that I need to take that shot, but I'd say in a lot of ways I enjoy his movies far more than I enjoy like a Christopher Nolan at this point. Christopher Nolan's good, but I just think Denis is adding this whole other element to movies. I think his inventive way of looking at things just sticks out to me so much more. The only reason I'm comparing those two is just because I feel like Christopher Nolan gets a lot of credit for being kind of the best director out there right now. I don't know. I think Denis doing it better than him right now. So yeah, all in all, outstanding. Loved it. Loved the movie. Cannot wait to see it again. And man, part of me just wishes they had just gone ahead and recorded or started the process of actually filming for the third one there on the spot. This was also my first time, not to do a hard right turn here. This was my first time seeing the trailer in theater for the new Mad Max film, the Furiosa film. So that was kind of my first time seeing it on a big screen. And that's another one I'm incredibly excited for. Can't wait to catch that one here this summer. We've talked about, kind of our most anticipated movies of the year, and that was obviously one that was on there. So I already saw the trailer. I just hadn't seen it like on the big screen. And looks good. Chris Hemsworth really sticks out in that trailer. The only thing that I'm just ever so slightly kind of concerned about in that movie is one of the things that made the first film by Fury Road, that is, I shouldn't say the first film. There's a lot of Mad Max films. But what makes Fury Road so interesting is there were a lot of practical effects. And all of the vehicles were practical, and it added an element of danger, if that makes sense, to the movie, where it made things feel that much more interesting and scary because it wasn't just CGI on top of CGI. It just felt like it had some actual real weight to it. Where this trailer, and maybe it's just me, felt like it added a lot more CG elements than what I remember to the first one. And some of this might be rose-colored glasses because obviously there was a lot of CG in the first one. But I don't know why. And that trailer, it just kind of feels like I'm looking at a whole lot of CG elements that just um, feel like this is kind of glossing over some of the elements that I think make the first movie or Fury Road um, really special and really great. I'm still obviously excited to see it. Seeing it on the big screen, though, those elements kind of stuck out to me a little bit more than I expected them to. But we've obviously got some time before that movie comes out, so that we're just gonna have to wait and kind of see how that one plays out. Well, I don't know about you guys. I don't know what movies you guys are looking forward to here this year. Obviously, thank you again if you are stopping in on the live stream. And obviously, I want you guys to interact with the show. So anytime I'm jumping on, if you have any thoughts, opinions, or you just want to ridicule my takes on things, then I'm obviously more than happy to have those conversations here on stream, and look forward to you guys kind of joining in the future and telling me my hot takes are trash. Like, is Austin Butler a good actor? This is one that a friend of mine had just mentioned. He apparently did not like Austin Butler that much in Dune Pt.2. I don't want to misspeak for him, but did not care for his performance there. I actually like this guy. For a young actor, I tend to get a little bit picky where it feels like they're just kind of putting some of these actors out there just because they look good on screen, but they're not necessarily an interesting person to watch. I actually think he's kind of picking movies that I enjoy or would enjoy. And I don't care about Elvis, but I thought he was great in Elvis. And I actually ended up liking that movie for a guy that does not personally care about Elvis in life. I didn't listen to his music. I didn't grow up with his music. So I have, very little opinions on how I feel about Elvis. But I thought he was great in the movie, and it made me kind of interested in him. But is Austin Butler actually a good young actor? I think so. I think he's got a good future ahead of him. I still have not seen Masters of the Air yet. I'd love to be able to catch that, and he's one of the reasons why I think he looks great in that. But yeah, so that is it for today's stream. Again, thank you for anybody that kind of stopped in here. I appreciate it. If we are streaming multi-platform here, so we are on 4 different streaming platforms right now. So depending on where you are, again, go ahead and put a like or subscribe. Obviously, even that exists on X. So if you are seeing on an X, that would be great. I appreciate that. But again, join in on the next stream. We look at streaming Monday through Friday. Typically, we want to stream somewhere between 11 in the morning and like 2 o'clock Eastern. That's usually the goal. So if for whatever reason you're just sitting around and you want to jump in here and join the conversation, I'm obviously more than happy to have you. But until next time, we'll see you later.